Nestled in the mist-shrouded hills of Nagaland lies the ancient village of Tsülikokong, a place where the living and the unseen have long shared an uneasy coexistence. The people of the Naga tribe, who called these lands home, were no strangers to the mysteries that drifted through their forests, whispers of spirits lingering beyond death, of promises unfulfilled, and of love that defied the boundaries between worlds. It was said that on certain nights, when the moon hung low and pale over the hills, the veil between the realms grew thin. In the heart of this village lived a young hunter named Akin, a man known for his boldness as much as his restless spirit. Akin was not like the other villagers who found comfort in the rhythms of daily life. While others tilled the fields and tended their hearths, his heart beat for the wild, the call of distant woods, the thrill of the hunt, and the promise of freedom beyond the village's watchful eyes. Though skilled with bow and spear, it was his curiosity that led him where others dared not tread. Elders warned against wandering alone near the ancient stones of Tsülikokong, where spirits were said to dance under moonlight. But Akin, with the recklessness of youth, paid little heed to such caution. He believed only in what his eyes could see and his hands could touch. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills and shadows stretched long across the earth, Akin set out to hunt. The air was heavy with the scent of rain-soaked earth, and the forest stirred with unseen life. As he followed the trail of a deer, his steps led him to the edge of the forbidden glade, a place where even the wind seemed to hold its breath. It was there, in the hush of twilight, that he first saw her. She stood beneath an ancient oak, her form bathed in the silver glow of the rising moon. Her hair fell in waves of midnight down her back, and her skin, pale as moonlight, seemed almost to shimmer against the darkness. There was an otherworldly grace in her stillness, as though she belonged not to this earth, but to something beyond it. Akin should have turned away. Every story he had ever heard warned against speaking to strangers who appeared when day gave way to night. But his heart stirred with a longing he could not explain, and against his better judgment, he stepped closer. "You should not be here," the woman said softly, her voice a melody that seemed to blend with the night breeze. "This is not a place for the living." Akin's curiosity flared. "And yet, here you stand. Are you not living too?" The faintest smile touched her lips, though sadness shadowed her eyes. "Perhaps I am only a memory of what once was." Undeterred by her cryptic words, Akin introduced himself. The woman gave her name, Naga, and though she spoke little of her past, her presence lingered with an air of sorrow, as if she carried a burden too heavy to share. Each evening after that, Akin returned to the glade, drawn by a force he could neither name nor resist. And each night he found her waiting. Their conversations stretched long into the night, of dreams, of the stars above, of places far beyond the village's borders. Over time, an undeniable bond grew between them. Akin found in Naga a solace he had never known, a sense that, in her company, the world's weight fell away. And yet, beneath their growing affection, a shadow lingered. Naga never crossed the boundary of the glade, nor did she ever come to the village, no matter how often he asked. Always, as dawn approached, she would vanish into the mist, leaving only the ghost of her laughter in the air. Whispers began to stir among the villagers. Akin's absence did not go unnoticed, nor did the distant, faraway look that crept into his eyes. The elders, guardians of the old ways, grew concerned. They had seen such things before, young hearts ensnared by what the eye could not always perceive. One evening, the village's eldest seer, a woman known as Tsülikokong, summoned Akin to her hearth. Her face, lined with the wisdom of years, was grave as the firelight danced in her eyes. "You walk a dangerous path, child," she warned. "Not all who smile beneath the moon are of this world. Spirits linger where pain binds them. Do you know what you have invited into your heart?" Akin, though respectful, could not be swayed. "She is no spirit," he insisted. "I know what I feel, and she is as real as you or I." Tsülikokong shook her head, her voice heavy with the weight of truth. "Be wary, Akin. Love, when tied to the unseen, can bind more deeply than you know. And some bonds are not so easily broken. Still, Aiken's heart refused to yield to fear. That night, as he returned to the glade, he found Noxenly waiting as always. Yet there was something different in her gaze, a sadness that cut through the quiet joy they shared. "You should not love me," she whispered as he took her hand. "There are things you do not understand, things I cannot tell you." Aiken's grip tightened. "Then tell me. Whatever you are, whatever secrets you carry, I will not turn away." A shadow flickered across her face, but at last she spoke. "There is a promise you must make," she said. "No matter what happens, no matter what you see, you must never speak my name beyond this glade. If you do, I will be lost to you forever." Without hesitation, Aiken swore the oath. What was a promise when set against the weight of love? And for a time, the shadow seemed to lift. Their love deepened, a flame burning bright against the coming dark. Yet fate, once set in motion, rarely turns aside from mortal hearts. One night, as the village prepared for the harvest festival, Aiken found himself surrounded by friends and the warmth of celebration. Laughter filled the air, and beneath its spell, he let his guard slip. Someone asked where he spent his nights, and without thinking, Aiken spoke her name. The moment the words left his lips, the air grew cold. A hush fell over the revelers, but only Aiken felt the weight of his mistake. His heart seized with dread, and he fled toward the glade, calling for Noxenly. But the moonlit clearing stood empty. The wind stirred through the trees, but no voice answered his cries. For days, he searched through mist and shadow, across hills and valleys, but she was gone. The glade grew quiet, as though the spirit who had once dwelled there had slipped beyond reach. In the years that followed, Aiken remained a shadow of the man he had once been, haunted by the memory of the woman he had loved and lost. Some say that on moonlit nights, a faint figure can still be seen beneath the ancient oak, waiting for a lover who broke his promise, and for a love that could never truly die. The days grew shorter, and the cool winds of autumn swept through Tsülikokong. Yet Aiken's heart burned with longing. Though Noxenly had vanished from the glade that fateful night, he could not abandon hope. Each evening, beneath the pale gaze of the moon, he returned to the place where their love had blossomed. His voice, raw with yearning, called her name into the darkness. But the forest gave no answer, only the rustle of leaves and the distant cry of night birds. Still, he refused to believe she was lost forever. Aiken became a man divided. By day, he walked the village paths, his hands busy with the tasks of survival, mending traps, gathering firewood, preparing for the harvest. But his spirit lingered elsewhere. In every shadow, he imagined her face. Every whisper of wind carried the echo of her voice. His friends grew wary of his silence, and the village elders shook their heads, murmuring that he had fallen under the spell of something beyond human understanding. Even Put Sungla, the seer, who had once warned him, watched from afar with eyes heavy with sorrow. One night, when the air hung thick with the promise of rain, Aiken took the path to the glade again. The moon, hidden behind heavy clouds, cast no light upon his way. Yet something, some unseen force, pulled him forward. His heart quickened as he reached the ancient oak where Noxenly had once stood. For a long moment, there was only silence, and then, from the darkness, a figure stepped into view. It was her. Pale as moonlight and fragile as mist, Noxenly stood beneath the tree, her dark hair tumbling over her shoulders. But something had changed. The warmth that once softened her features was gone, replaced by a distant, haunted expression. When she spoke, her voice trembled like the breeze before a storm. "You should not have spoken my name," she said, her eyes heavy with sadness. Aiken's breath caught in his throat. "I did not mean to betray you," he said, stepping closer. "I have searched for you every night. My heart has known no peace." A shadow flickered across her face. "I warned you," she whispered. "The world I belong to is not yours. The moment my name left your lips, the path between us began to close." Desperation surged within him. "Then let me follow you," he pleaded. "Wherever you go, whatever you are, I will not let you disappear again." For a heartbeat, her sorrow seemed to soften. She raised a hand, her fingers trembling as they brushed against his cheek. "If you truly mean those words," she said, "there is a way, but it comes with a price no mortal should pay." "I would pay any price to keep you," Aiken swore, his voice steady despite the fear curling at the edges of his heart. Noxenly hesitated, as though torn between hope and dread. At last she spoke. "You must come with me to the place where my soul is bound. But you must not speak, not a word, until I bid you to. If you break this silence, no power will bring me back." Without another thought, Aiken nodded. He would follow her anywhere, no matter the cost. Hand in hand, they left the glade behind and slipped into the deep heart of the forest, where no human foot had trod for generations. The wind grew colder as they walked, the air thick with the scent of earth, and something older, something forgotten. Hours passed in silence. The world around them seemed to change, growing stranger with each step. The trees bent at impossible angles, their branches weaving patterns against a sky where no stars shone. Strange shapes moved in the shadows, watching without eyes. Yet Aiken did not falter. His hand remained clasped in Noxenly's, her touch the only warmth in the gathering dark. At last, they came to a place unlike any other, a hollow where the earth opened like a wound. In its center stood a stone altar, weathered and cracked with age. Pale flowers bloomed around its edges, their petals shimmering like frost. Noxenly's steps slowed as they approached, her face pale as the ghostly blossoms. "This is where it began," she said softly, breaking the silence. "And where it must end." Aiken remained silent, as she had commanded, though his heart pounded in his chest. Noxenly knelt before the altar and laid her hands upon the stone. A pale light shimmered beneath her fingers, and the air grew heavy with unseen power. "My spirit has been bound to this place since the day I died," she said, her voice low and filled with a grief too deep for words. "Long ago, before you were born, I was promised to another, but my heart did not belong to him. On the night before our wedding, I fled to this very place, hoping to escape my fate." Her hands trembled against the stone. "But the spirits who dwell here do not grant freedom lightly. In my despair, I called to them, and they answered. They promised to hide me from those who sought to claim me. But their protection came at a terrible price. I became theirs, a shadow caught between the living and the dead." Aiken's heart ached at her words. He wanted nothing more than to comfort her, to promise that they would find a way to break her curse. But he held his tongue, fearing that even a single word might shatter the fragile hope that bound them together. Noxenly turned to him, her eyes shining with tears. "If you love me," she said, "you must do one last thing. Place your hand upon the stone and speak my name in your heart. If your love is true, the bond will break, and I will be free." Aiken knelt beside her, his heart heavy with the weight of her plea. Slowly, he laid his hand upon the cold, ancient stone. His thoughts filled with her image, the curve of her smile, the warmth of her touch, the endless nights they had shared beneath the stars. In the silence of his heart, he called her name. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the ground beneath them trembled, and the air grew thick with light. Aiken felt a force tug at him, a cold, merciless pull that sought to tear him away from her. Still, he held fast, pouring every ounce of his love into the name he carried within. A cry pierced the air, Noxenly's voice, sharp with pain and longing. The light grew brighter, searing his vision, and for a breathless instant, Aiken feared he had lost her forever. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, the light faded, the earth still beneath them. When Aiken opened his eyes, Noxenly lay in his arms, her body warm and real against his chest. The pallor had left her skin, and when she looked up at him, her eyes shone with life. "It is over," she whispered. "I am free." Relief flooded through Aiken as he pulled her close, his heart soaring with joy. For the first time, There was no shadow between them, no barrier to the love they shared. They left the hollow behind, their steps light as they returned to the waking world. In the days that followed, Noxenli came to the village, and though the people whispered of strange magic and spirits bargains, none could deny the bond between them. Yet even as the seasons changed and their love grew, Aiken knew the truth. Some promises cannot be broken without consequence. Deep in the heart of the forest, the spirits still watched, and the price of freedom had yet to be fully paid. But for now, with Noxenli by his side, he chose to hold on to hope, knowing that love, if strong enough, could bridge even the darkest of worlds. Years passed, and the memory of Aiken and Noxenli's love became woven into the fabric of Tsülikokong's history. Their story, whispered beneath the eaves of the thatched roofs and around crackling hearth fires, grew into something more than mere legend. It became a warning, a testament to the power of love and the dangerous price of crossing the boundary between the living and the dead. Though the villagers had once feared the glade where Aiken first met Noxenli, it soon became a place of pilgrimage for those seeking answers from the unseen world. Yet those who ventured there knew better than to speak her name aloud, lest they summon forces they could neither understand nor control. Aiken and Noxenli, it was said, lived quietly on the village's edge. Their love, forged in shadow and trial, burned with a warmth no winter could touch. Yet those who knew them well saw the shadow that lingered behind Noxenli's eyes, a distant sadness that no earthly joy could entirely erase. She laughed with the village children, shared in the harvest feasts, and wove cloth alongside the other women. But at times, her gaze would drift toward the distant hills as though listening for a call only she could hear. Aiken, though grateful for the life they shared, never forgot the price they had paid to be together. He carried the weight of that knowledge quietly, knowing that the spirits who had once claimed Noxenli's soul did not easily release what they possessed. There were nights when he woke to find her standing at the edge of the forest, her face pale in the moonlight, as though the unseen world still held a claim on her heart. Yet she never spoke of what haunted her, and Aiken never asked, fearing that to give voice to his worry might summon the darkness again. The elders of Tsülikokong, wise in the ways of the old beliefs, often spoke of the tale as more than a love story. To them, it was a lesson, a reminder that the boundary between life and death is not easily crossed without consequence. They taught that love, while powerful, must be tempered by wisdom, and that the desires of the heart should not blind one to the unseen forces that govern the world. Young lovers who heard the tale learned to be cautious in their affections, lest they, too, find themselves ensnared by something beyond their comprehension. Yet not all who heard the story saw it as a cautionary tale. To some, Aiken and Noxenli's love was a symbol of devotion that defied the natural order. Their bond had not been broken by death, nor had the forces of the spirit world torn them apart. In a world where loss was a constant companion, their story offered hope that love, when held tightly enough, could overcome even the darkest of fates. It was said that those who had lost loved ones would leave offerings at the ancient oak where Aiken first met Noxenli, flowers, woven charms, and whispered prayers to the spirits, asking for a love that might bridge the divide between life and death. But there were those who remembered the warning that Put Sungla, the village seer, had spoken before the fateful night. Not all who smile beneath the moon are of this world, she had said. The spirits who lingered in the glade were not beings of mercy. They had allowed Aiken and Noxenli to find each other again, but at what cost? Some believed that Noxenli's freedom had come at a price, yet unpaid, and that one day the spirits would return to claim what was theirs. Indeed, strange happenings continued to be reported near the forest's edge. Hunters spoke of cold winds that stirred without warning and shadows that shifted where none should be. On moonless nights, travelers claimed to hear a voice, soft and sorrowful, calling from the heart of the woods. Whether it was the echo of Noxenli's spirit or something far older, no one could say. But the elders warned against answering the call, For once the spirits knew a heart's desire, they would not rest until their claim was satisfied. Aiken, for all his strength, grew older. His hair turned silver, and the sharpness of youth faded from his limbs, but his love for Noxenly remained unchanged. And yet, as the years passed, he became haunted by a growing fear. What would happen when death came for him? Would the spirits who had once bound Noxenly allow her to follow him beyond this life? Or would she remain forever tethered to the place where their love had begun? The thought tormented him in his quiet moments, though he never spoke of it aloud. One autumn evening, as the first frost crept across the fields, Noxenly fell ill. No healer's herbs could ease her suffering, and no prayer lifted the shadow from her skin. Aiken stayed by her side, holding her hand through the long, cold nights, but he knew the truth. The bond they had fought so hard to preserve was slipping away, and with it, the fragile hope that they might escape the spirit's final reckoning. On the night of the first snowfall, Noxenly's strength faded. As the village slept, Aiken carried her to the glade where they had first met. The moon hung low and heavy above them, casting its pale light on the ancient oak. There, beneath its boughs, Noxenly opened her eyes one last time. "They're calling me back," she whispered, her voice as soft as falling snow. Aiken's heart broke at her words, but he would not let her go alone. "Then I will follow," he vowed. "Wherever you go, whatever lies beyond, I will find you." A faint smile touched her lips as she lifted a trembling hand to his face. "Not yet," she said. "Live while you can, and when your time comes, we will meet again where no spirit can part us." As the first light of dawn touched the sky, Noxenly's breath slowed, and with it, the weight of the unseen world seemed to lift. In his arms, she grew still. Yet Aiken did not weep. He had loved her beyond the boundaries of life and death, and he would hold her memory until the day he crossed that boundary himself. In the years that followed, Aiken became a figure of legend. Some said that he never truly died, that he simply vanished into the woods one night, seeking the path that would lead him back to Noxenly. Others believed that the spirits had taken pity on him and allowed them to reunite in the world beyond. Whatever the truth, the glade where their love began remained a place of mystery and power. Even today, the villagers speak of Aiken and Noxenly with both reverence and caution, for theirs is a story that bridges the known and the unknown, a reminder that love, for all its beauty, can carry a price no mortal should pay lightly. But in the quiet hours when the moon hangs low and the wind stirs softly through the trees, some say you can still hear their voices, Aiken and Noxenly, calling to one another across the vale. And perhaps, if you listen closely, you will understand the truth hidden within their tale. That love, once truly given, never fades. It lingers like a breath on the wind, waiting for the day when the barriers between worlds will fall and all who are lost will find their way home.